So, Shantam, welcome to Thrive, the podcast. I'm so thrilled to be having this conversation with you because we have really been over the years. I think I first came into contact with you in 2011, and
Mm.
knowing you really shifted the trajectory of my life in a lot of ways. You're somebody who has followed your own path against society's conditioning. And that has led you on quite the epic journey to being a mentor and guide to men and women internationally around the world in for decades. You've been a pioneer in energy and body work and consciousness. You've,
And
yeah,
sexuality.
and sexuality, yeah, in such a way that it has changed the trajectory of people's lives.
Well,
So
thank you. I,
I
I
get
had no idea I did all that, but I trust you. Maybe I did.
Hey. Well, I know it from my own experience, and I hear it from multiple sources around the world. So, what's so interesting as well is that, I mean, I wouldn't even call it a business in a way, but in a funny kind of way, that's what you've created, a business that just you're not marketing, you're not advertising, but for years people have found you.
That's been the amazing part for me.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people have found you, and the life that you've created for yourself and given other people the window into. Yeah, I mean, tell us where this all began. Where were you born and how did you grow up?
I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, in a uh, outside Nashville, Tennessee, actually in a little small town of Columbia, Tennessee, which had at the time about 40,000 residents. That's where I grew up. In the house with a minister and a teacher. And that's where it all began. And how it got here, only God knows, really.
So I remember you sharing, it was your dad who was the minister, obviously, not a lot of female ministers back in those times.
Yeah, it was my
And
dad. Yes.
yeah. And I think you saw something in that from a very young age, because I remember you saying that you took a stand.
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
What I saw was him representing a minister for the people, but then I lived in the house with him. So I realized that what he was talking about when he was talking to people outside and how he was inside were two entirely different things. So at one point, he even said to me, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't believe the things that I say to the people at the church.
Oh, wow.
And he said, and the reason why is because I've got a master's degree. I've been to college. There's no way I could believe this with
Wow.
my
Okay.
education. So my question to him at that point was, well, then why do you go and talk to them about all this stuff that you in no way believe? And he said, because these people want to talk to somebody that is Christian. They want to talk to someone that is going to tell them the things that they want to hear. Otherwise, and I want to participate in the community. I want to participate in the politics that goes on. So I refrain from telling them a bunch of things that they in no way want to hear because they wouldn't in no way listen to me if I did that.
Wow. And you've done the opposite, I see in your life. You've been full on in giving people the truth, even if they don't want to hear it.
That's the only way. Either you're committed to truth or you're in no way committed to truth. There's no in between.
So what
So
did that do to your relationship with
with
your
him,
dad? Yeah.
well, eventually pulled him aside one day and I said, why don't you go in Sunday and set the people free? Tell them that this is where you're coming from. He said, I can't do it. I said, well, you know you're lying. Now I know you're lying, which I've always known you were lying. But now you've admitted it to me. So I can no longer uphold you in what you're doing. I can in no way stand behind you. So if you're in no way going in to set the people free on Sunday, then as far as I'm concerned, you and I are complete.
Mm.
We're done.
And you were
If I
young at this point.
relatively, yes. So if you are in no way going in to do that, then I'm done. If I never see you again in this lifetime, we're complete.
Wow.
I'll come back if you ever pass uh, transition. I will come back and help my mother put you in the ground. But if I never see you before then, that's okay with me because we're complete. I'm saying that to you now so you'll know.
How is it that
And,
at such a young age you had such a strong stand in your own knowing?
um, that's a mystery to even me. And even to this day, it's still a mystery to me why I committed myself so deeply to what I was doing.
Because you were in
I
no way
wasn't
open
doing,
to you were in no way open to any type of manipulation is what I'm getting.
uh, there's no way to manipulate the truth. This is what a lot of people fail to understand at this point on this plane. That if it's a good reason to manipulate the truth, it's okay to manipulate it. That's most people's stance.
Yeah. Yeah,
No, I
and
was,
there's a lot of that goes on, right? So that people are following instead of checking in with themselves and feeling the resonance.
yeah. Most people are just going along with the popular narrative, which is all lies and propaganda. All of it. All of it. You have basically heard no truth since you've been on the plane.
Mm.
And even if it's partially the truth, it's been manipulated and shifted and changed enough for it still to somehow fit the popular narrative.
And there's a
So
lot of systems where that impacts. But before we get into more of that, how was your connection with your mother?
she was a very sort of soft spoken, dedicated Christian woman. Her my father became a minister because her family was so dedicated to Christianity. Before he was in Christianity, he was a gambler and a drinker, and he continued to drink throughout the time of his life. It
Mm.
was alcohol that eventually killed him.
How did your mom deal with that? Because that's not an easy thing for any woman to be married to.
First of all, he never drank in the house. I was up in age before I figured out that he was drinking. And how I discovered it is I went down into the basement one day. And when I got down there, I took a flashlight with me, which I'd never done before. And I took this flashlight and I started looking around and I saw all these containers, wine bottles,
Wow.
half empty, with the cork pushed down, crumbled up and pushed down inside of the bottle. So the cork was floating around in it. He would drink a certain amount of it and then he would crush the thing in the cork in so he wouldn't drink anymore.
Oh, wow. So he was trying to deal with it, it sounds like, but he didn't win against that battle.
No.
Mm. Mm.
He the alcohol outran him in that race.
And it also sounds like your mom influenced him quite a lot, but not really in his heart. Like he did it,
He
becoming a minister, but
yeah, it looked like he did it. Out in the community, he people knew that he drank. They knew it before I knew it living in the house with him.
uh, so how was their marriage and all of that kind of stuff?
Mm, she kept the house together because with his drinking, he would go out and spend all his money and come back. And so she would actually have to put him on a ration of money almost, like give him an allowance because however much you gave him, he would spend. So that was the
So it's
kind
an
of environment
interesting dynamic between the two of them. In a way, she was the boss, kind of.
without even wanting to be the boss.
Yeah,
She just was the one that made sure that we ate. I
yeah,
wouldn't call her the boss. She couldn't tell him that much,
yeah.
but
Mm,
because he did whatever he was going to do. But she took over the money aspect of it so that we would be sure that the rent would get paid and we would eat.
yeah, yeah. So, so you go out on your own.
Yeah.
Like I'm not hanging around here.
Well, I eventually went out on my own. I mean, I grew up there in the house. And when I finished high school, then I decided that I was going to do something else. And then shortly thereafter, then I left the house.
Mm. And what did you end up going into at first?
At first, I went to a neighboring city, which was Nashville, Tennessee, and decided to live up there. And I lived up there for a while with me and some other young men that were in college age. Um, I went to the campus of the college. I would never say that I went to college. So my education has all been my own. I, I don't I couldn't say anything to you about what went on in college. Was a computer programming student. So I went through that. I was a math major, so I went through that. But I I remember nothing.
Wow, but
Absolutely nothing.
you have an extensive library. I know that, but it's all books that have interested you, things that have drawn your attention.
I've got well over a $2 million library, and it's all nonfiction. I may own one or two or three, maybe four fiction books, but that's it. I never even purchased them.
Mm,
Wasn't interested. I couldn't figure out what was the benefit of fiction.
mm,
If
mhm,
I'm coming into a world and I want to live in truth, then why fill me up with fiction, stuff that's just running together? Even if it's a beautifully written book, it's in opposition to life.
mm,
It's always
mhm.
telling some story that I've got to imagine what it means. Why am I
Yeah.
imagining what life means if it's life that you're writing about? I could never get to it.
So you were never into the escapism that comes when we entertain fiction, basically, because that's
No,
in a way the pleasure of it for a
that's
lot
what
of people.
saves me. Excuse me for
Mm,
cutting you off. That's what saved me as far as relating sexuality and all those things was concerned. I took in what you would give a child. My mother bought me a little set of books that had all of the anatomy of male and female in it and explained birthing and stuff in technical terms, which were for a child of 8 or 9 years old. So
but
that's
that
how
piqued your curiosity. Yeah. Okay.
My curiosity got piqued because when I was 5 years old, some older children took me and a younger girl and talked us and walked us through us having sex because they were afraid to.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I had a similar experience with in that respect. Well, we won't go there. Um,
You're not going to tell us about the interesting parts of your life. Okay, okay. We'll, we'll, we won't go there.
I just, well, I mean, I remember my sister being real curious, and I was her pawn in the game. You
Well,
do it. You go ahead and do it, and I'm going to watch you.
yeah,
And if you don't do it, there's going to be a story that you did something else instead, and then you'll catch the punishment side. So that was an interesting dynamic. Yeah.
yes.
So, okay, so that piqued your curiosity, and
And then from that point on, I was gone as far as sex was concerned. I um, went from there to gradually getting into the library and reading everything that I could find on sex. The big old dusty books that I'm sure no adult ever read in that library about all aspects of sex, the anomalies, the everything I could find, I read.
wow, that's some depth that you've gone to. And okay, so tell us where that started to take you, that knowledge, that accumulation, and that curiosity.
At about 14, there was an older woman in my neighborhood that uh, had been initiated into the Rosicrucians. So she had a closet that was filled to the top with books that she had gotten from the Rosicrucians, and she gave me access to it and allowed me to read, take home whatever I wanted to, and bring it back. So I got real involved in looking at stuff in there, magic, numerology, this, that, just almost any subject I could think of with me having no knowledge of the subject matter in the first place. So I studied that, and then eventually, I don't know, I somehow got a reputation with women that I knew nothing about. If you can understand how that could happen. In other words, women had an idea about me, and they shared it with one another. I had no idea what was going on, but it put me in all kinds of different situations. At an early in my schooling, it set it up where almost every woman, every girl that was in my class, I had interacted with her, but without anybody knowing it, but me and them, which was even more different. Because I never talked about my encounters or escapades or any of that. And I also had many interactions with high school teachers and college professors when I was supposed to be at college. So I was having all this sexual experience, but without me making it public to anybody.
So you were really studying the field, but
Out
it came to you. The
and the
field
fee
found you.
and the field was studying me, believe me.
Wow.
So that's kind of where my background came from. I was extremely curious about sex. And then as I started to get older, I started to go into reading things about how to you know, be with a woman in a way that was going to be satisfying to her. And that went on and on and on for years to this day. I was
So that
online looking at something today, actually.
I think the question that arises in what you're sharing is there's a lot in mainstream society, there's a huge misunderstanding about sex and what sex is, and sexuality and how people relate to themselves and one another. With all your experience, what have you found that sex is really about?
Everything. I mean, sex is at the bottom of everything. I have no idea how men and women have come to a point where they think sex is a taboo. Sex, you don't talk about it. And yet it is the basis of everything. Everything came from that. So it's really ironic to me that an intelligent adult at this point in time could be tied tongue when it comes to speaking and or mentioning sex.
Yeah, it's a subject of huge shame for a lot of people.
Only because there was so much perversion amongst our parents that never was talked about.
Mm. Can you
So
elaborate on that a little bit in terms of what you mean by perversion?
it's all the stuff that's coming out now in the media and everywhere. You come to it and you realize all of the people that came before you, even though they look so Christian and everything, but this is where pedophilia was running rampant.
Mm,
Now it's beginning to become known, and everybody act so surprised, like, where does this come from? It's been happening the whole duration of time that we've been here.
mm,
How it could get by that long and nobody even notice it or mention it ever. It's like the mother would, if it was going on, wouldn't mention it. So she would be in the house and know that the father was abusing her daughters. Never mention it. If the daughter mentioned it, she was ridiculed, put in her place, and said, "Don't you ever say that again." That in no way made it go away. It just pushed it all undercover so everybody could sit around and put their little Sunday smile on their face and think about how pure they are because they go to church every Sunday.
yeah.
But your heart is like as dirty as the ground outdoors.
Mm,
How do you think that just going to church fixes all of this stuff that you're hiding?
mm,
But this has been going on forever. This
mm,
didn't this didn't start in 1800s. No, this has been going on.
yeah. So there's so much here. I mean, I guess, uh, firstly, I believe I've heard you say, sex is like your life force energy. And I certainly remember in my, early life realizing that my sexual energy and desire was linked to creativity in life. That there
It
was this
it
strong
it that
connection.
it is creativity at a certain level. You go through yourself and you'll have all of the things that you are will be present there on all levels. They just manifest slightly differently.
Mm,
So creativity, that's what I was using when I was looking at it and studying sex. I was looking at it from a creative standpoint. So that's the
mm.
reason how why I discovered many things about it that most people had never encountered.
And I think this, just going back on this point, people who have been raised in situations where they're they're feeling and they're being in their own language and description sexually abused by their relative or some other person in their
Mhm.
world. And there's a lot of shame then that they carry in life to try to deal with what's been going on.
So now just imagine that you growing up and you are ashamed of the fact that you're sexual and that you are human, that you are alive here. And that's what you deal with every day. I'm ashamed that I'm alive. I'm ashamed that I feel sex in my body.
Mm,
This one of the things that locks off many people's their body inside. If you have a lot of shame and guilt and misunderstanding around sex, you're gonna tilt your pelvis and lock one side of it off so you don't hardly even ever know it's there. And
mm.
then live out of the other side where you can play like you're okay with everything. But everything ain't even there for you to be okay with.
So,
You're holding and suppressing part of your energy every day, all day long.
but the narrative for a lot of people is that this thing is being done to them by somebody, you know,
Who
who's
the who the narrative is being, and you mean the perpetrator, whoever was
yeah,
involved?
yeah,
Yeah, but pretty much that's true. Because you could be being forced. Y-
yeah,
y- It, you know, a lot of it is in no way a pretty scene.
yeah,
From me having talked to thousands of women on this plane, I know that it's all kinds of things that go on. Most women have no idea and no remembrance of what has happened to them in their life sexually.
yeah,
Many of the women that I've encountered, they all of a sudden come to a point where something comes up out of their subconscious, and all of a sudden they see their brother or the minister at church or somebody molesting them. They had no memory of it 5 minutes before.
yeah, yeah. So that speaks to the fact that we can suppress things that
Oh,
are
can,
shocking to
oh,
us
oh,
and
oh,
hide
can
them.
we?
Yeah,
We can suppress to the point that nobody would ever convince you that anything has ever untoward happened to you, because that's your image of purity, is that nothing has ever happened to you. So you can build up such a wall to protect that purity until it wipes out all of the other previous experiences in your life. You don't even know they happened. It's called compartmentalizing, I think.
mm,
And
yeah.
so many, I mean, with women, it's probably so staggering that we wouldn't even really want to know. We just hope that the people that were engaged in something like that will eventually find their way out. That's the best we can hope for.
But the impact of it for us as women is that it locks down our ability to receive and feel pleasure.
And contrary to popular belief, women are in no way the most victimized sexually on this plane. Little boys have it rough. And it's really rough with a little boy, because at least if a man uh, abuses a little girl, she's still in her role, meaning she's still performing the acts of a woman. But when a little boy gets violated, his manhood is taken on the spot. A lot of men never recover from that, or they spend their whole life trying to compensate for the fact that they were sexually violated when they were young. Nobody talks about it. It's amazing. The whole situation is astounding to me. I'm just amazed, and I'm amazed that people walk around and call themselves intelligent, and they in no way see this.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
and now there's so much confusion. Until now, youngsters, young adults are growing up. They have no idea if they're a man or a woman. Imagine that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, it's such a
It's a
painful
stretch.
thing to watch.
It
I
is.
can't imagine going through what some people are going through in terms of the surgeries they have and all sorts. I can't imagine just the body, the
A lot
trauma in
a
the
lot
body
of
from
them
that.
can't believe it themselves when once they've done it, and get on the other side, and have to deal with what it brings about in their life. They don't
Yeah.
even want to go back and talk about it. It's like, where did I go? Yeah,
Yeah.
good question.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is being, even that's being pushed. See, there's an agenda to turn everybody homosexual here on this
Mhm.
plane.
Mhm.
So You're seeing the results of it. If you keep programming them like that, keep destroying the little boy's manhood before he ever even sees it, then what do you expect?
There's also I mean, there's so much interference in terms of chemically and all the rest, right? I mean, I remember
All of
seeing a
it.
study
All
about
of it.
plastic and how plastic leaks a certain hormone and will change the sex of a frog.
Exactly.
And we've been drinking our water from plastic bottles for decades, unless you knew better.
Well,
And
here's the catch. It's either drinking for that or die of thirst. What you gonna choose? They
mm,
they put you between a hard place and a rock. You never really get any choice.
mm. Yeah, I
You
remember you saying this
backed
a
up
long
into
time
a
ago.
corner. You
Mm,
backed up into a corner and told what you gonna have to do. Are you gonna
mm,
die?
mm.
It's that simple. And you're gonna die if you do what we tell you to do too. So it's just a matter of time. You're just trying to beat the clock.
So, the thing that I want to come to here is the work that you, I mean, I call it work. You probably don't call it work. Where you came to is you developed nirvana body work, and also your interactions with women in sex are just extraordinary. I know this because of my personal experience with you and what it did in my body, what it opened up. And over 4 years of being under your mentorship in a lot of respects, the way it pulled off so much tension and stress in my body that I had been carrying for decades, so such that I couldn't really open up to life. And so what I would notice is that after, you know, we would interact, I would just be lit up. Can't quite describe it. It's not, it's not a lit up as in excited. It's just a shining
Alive.
alive.
Most people have no idea that they're walking around, for the most part, dead.
Yeah.
They've learned how to deal with a certain amount of energy moving through their body. They identify that with life, and then there's this whole huge amount of energy that never comes into the forefront. So they don't
Mm,
even know that energy is there. They may hear things that would indicate that there's something more powerful in you. That's all they know about it.
mm. So, um, yeah, this has a massive shift in the physical body because as we release
The
our
tension,
armor and the
all that
tension.
tension and holding on and looking over your own shoulder to make sure you never make a mistake in front of people that will reveal that you even know that you're sexual.
Mm.
You can't, that's classified information.
But in order for you to really bring this level of depth to the world and to women and to men as well, and this understanding, you've had to go through some fire. You've had to face the projections of women,
Yeah,
the wanting of women who want to just have you solely to themselves because you've never lived that life of being a
no,
man who stays with one woman and is married. You were married at one point, but that was such an
yes,
unusual marriage in
yes,
society's terms. Do you want to tell
yes.
us a little bit about that, dealing with that because it's not an easy thing to deal with. Dealing with women who, and I've been in relationship where I just want that man to be there for me. What do you mean you're gonna, and like just not wanting to entertain this idea that he would see anybody else and what I would make that mean.
But what a job you put on your shoulders to make sure that he never sees anybody else when God created him with two eyes.
But to be honest with you, though, this this right here is something that most women in no way want to ever
Right,
accept.
right. You know why? It's truth. Once women have been corrupted at a certain age, from that point on, they want to know nothing about truth. That's the reason why they love fairy tales and fantasies and all of this and dolls and shit. They almost want to think that they've got a baby when they've got a doll. That's how much they're in fantasy. But how could a baby and a doll be the same? It's
At the
impossible.
same time, though, there are men who are incredibly devoted to their partner, so it's not always the case that men want everything that's out there.
They couldn't, there's no possibility of a man having everything that is out there. That's in opposition to the truth. How could one man fuck or have sex with, excuse my French, have sex with 8 billion people, 4 billion people? It's impossible.
Well, you've done a pretty good job of having a couple of hundred women in a room at the same time and bringing all of the women to orgasm and sometimes remotely. And so I feel like this is a special mission that you've had in life that
Every,
doesn't
every,
really.
every man has that mission in life. They just never pick it up. The, say, for instance, all I'm doing is I'm being a man in the community that I live in saying, I never want to walk in a room where I'm watching and talking to or seeing a woman that is crying and distraught because nobody has touched her in 15 years. With all these men walking around and passing her every day. It has nothing to do with if she's beautiful or any of that. They just, some women go untouched on this plane. As strange as that is. I said no, never on my watch. So that's how I developed hugging. Hugging was a way for me to, in a non-sexual way, be able to connect with a woman and let her experience herself as a sexual being, but without violating her.
Mm.
Just holding her. I've had women break down and start crying in my arms and said, you know what? I haven't been touched in 15 years. And I'm like, what? To my mind, I could never wrap my head around it.
So what you're
I,
saying is it's not really all about the sex, it's about the presence. It's
it's
about the
about
energetic
presence.
presence.
It's about being acknowledged that you're here alive and a human being. Who wants to walk around on a planet where everybody's walking around and nobody ever acknowledges that they're even walking by? It's too much. You're invisible on a planet that has people everywhere, but you're invisible. Can you imagine what that would do to your mind? But many women live this reality every day. Many, many. And they would have you think it's because some women are beautiful and some women aren't. But that's crazy. That makes no sense at all. The most the most neglected women that I've ever encountered in my life were some of the most physically beautiful women I encountered. They are much more neglected than a woman that's what everybody would call average. Oh, she's just average. That's a put down. I'm like, what? How could this be?
If I'm hearing you correctly, what I'm interpreting you might be saying here is that women who are by society standards esteemed to be beautiful are being projected on so much that nobody can actually be with them.
They are the most abused and the most neglected all at the same time. When I first started looking at the whole thing, I thought, wow, being a beautiful woman is a curse.
Mhm.
Why would any woman want to be beautiful? She's just gonna become a target for every insane, perverted thing this planet has to offer. And people will be conniving and scheming as to how they're gonna put her in that position. If you look at the movie industry and entertainment, that's all that they do to the women. So the most beautiful women are plucked out. She could be a movie star. And they'll take her, tell her they're going to do that, never do it, and then put her in a position where they abuse her and use her sexually for until she too has reached the age where they no longer want to be with her. And then they cast her aside. This is in the movie industry, which we get all of our education from. Think about it.
Mm.
To get on in a movie, you had to get on somebody's casting couch and perform for them sexually to even get in the door.
This thing right here, this performance piece reminds me that one of the things that you often share with people is about dropping the performance in the bedroom, right? Dropping the performance to be present, to
Yes.
be in your body, to be in your breath.
Otherwise, you're in no way available. You're no way even in the room. So how can a woman have sex with somebody in a room that she's standing outside by the window? She's not in the room. She's never
Yeah.
in the room. She never allows herself to be felt in the room. She never gives any indication she's enjoying anything in the room. How does that work?
And I remember as well with that, in terms of interacting with you, getting me to breathe, and not just breathe, but getting me to sound, and actually that barrier to allowing my own sounds was massive, because there was
Mass.
so much embarrassment. Oh my God. I have to
Most
sound.
women never, they will tell you, I never like hearing myself. How do you get to a point where you're living on a plane with people and you never like hearing yourself? It's just, it turns you off to even hear a sound that you make.
Yeah.
That's massive.
You want to talk us through a little bit about the way you interact with women that's so different in that context of allowing a woman and
It's
encouraging a woman to sound?
well, first of all, you have to be able to sound. Most men don't never sound either.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they're just there doing a performance. So
Hmm.
they're performing a different performance than you. They're doing the male performance. You doing the female performance in silence. They're doing the male performance in silence. No communication
Yeah. And
back and forth between the two.
in order to feel anything with all this armor from decades, basically it becomes rougher and harder and more uncomfortable and more painful. And so the sound, if there is any, is one of usually great discomfort
Yeah,
in a lot of
exactly.
cases. Yeah.
I encountered so many women in my lifetime that said that they never had sex unless it was painful.
Mhm.
All sex they ever had. So a few women, I would engage with them, and they would ask me, "Are you in?" And I would say, "Yes, I've been in." Well, I didn't feel any pain. Where did the pain go? I say
Mhm.
pain was never intended to be a part of sex, and is not intricately a part of sex at all. You
Mhm.
have been being abused your whole life, calling it sex, especially if you were experiencing pain every time you have it. Not every now and then, somebody get uh, caught in a certain way inside you or something, and have no idea what they're doing, and it creates a little pain. I'm not talking about that kind. I'm talking about the whole act from beginning to end is painful.
And what that does to us is it just locks down even more tension, even more. It
Totally.
tightens the grip even
And
more.
and you in no way want to even have sex because you're anticipating the pain.
Mm, mm.
And this is what we've come to here on this plane.
And so when you lock the body down in that way, the natural energy and life force that sustains us, that
It's shut
rejuvenates our
down.
health, that
It's shut
repairs.
down. It's shut
Yeah.
down. So a woman knows she's gonna start gaining weight at a certain point. Why? Because she's no longer vibrating as a human body. So stuff just gonna accumulate in her. She's doing nothing to move it on. Without you moving something inside, your lymphatic system doesn't work.
Mm,
And now all the waste, all the poisonings that you're taking in on this plane, now you hold on to 'em.
mm.
They become your own little gifts that you give yourself.
Yeah. And
What?
I guess there's such a deep um, experience that happens when someone comes into contact with a man like you, and I think you're very rare. You know, in terms of the population, there's not a lot of men who have the skill, the patience, the generosity to take a woman on that journey. But you've taken thousands of women on this journey.
And the catch in it is that it takes. First thing I say to a man, if all they are getting on this plane, get patience.
Mm,
Every bone, every patient bone in your body is going to be tested if you interact with women at all. Just be, start developing it when you're 5 years old and just keep developing patience. Get as much of it as you can get. You're going to need it.
yeah, yeah, and actually, that's a two-way street because what I've learned from my sons and from interacting with men is learning to be aware of where I can go off on a tangent and make and exasperate.
Something that probably never needed to be exasperated.
Yeah. So it's a two-way responsibility in the way I'm experiencing it for both.
You, you have, as a woman, you've had to have patience, but for a different reason. It's totally different for a man having patience. If a man is wanting to understand a woman and she's going everywhere and she's real touchy, so she's ready to argue about anything, just to even eventually be able to get a couple of words out that she may go, "Oh, that kind of made sense." Most of my words make sense. You just never have the patience to get to them. So, and then once you get exacerbated, now he's got to have patience and wait you out for you to go all wherever you go. And maybe one day, it's no guarantee, maybe one day you come to understand that what he was talking about actually made sense.
Yeah.
And most of the time, women don't. They have a hard time listening to anybody that's not their ideal man, meaning their fantasy man about what he looks like and his physique and this and that and on and on and on. Most of the times, if he in any way misses checking any of those boxes, he's already disbelieved before he opens his mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to attempt to have an intelligent conversation with a woman, to be able to keep communicating with each other clearly and intelligently until you can start to see we're not that different. We function a little different, but you were trained to function that way. I was trained to function this way, and both ways are horrible.
Mm.
There's no way to get from here to clarity and cooperation with what we were attempting to work with. No way. So a
And
man a lot of times will have a lot of love for a woman, but I can't. There's no possibility of me reaching her. So eventually he gives up. A lot of good men. See, you hear about the bad men that are out here, but for some reason, uh, when I was growing up, the girls always had a propensity to want to be with the bad boys, the people that had no respect for them. They didn't, if an individual was attempting to interact with them in a way that made some kind of sense, they weren't interested in him. He wasn't exciting enough.
it's interesting that you raise that because my perception, if I conceptualize, the way you shared how you were when you were younger with women, I probably might have perceived you as one of those bad boys because you were at it. Right. But what you're
But
telling me is
I was at it, but it wasn't like public. See, I wasn't out there uh, uh, putting it out. Oh, she's easy, this, that, whatever. I never was doing that. That's the reason why the women actually trusted me enough to interact with me.
so you
They
weren't
they
making up stories about them and
I
projecting it
never
onto
was.
them.
No, and I wasn't out there playing football and doing all the stuff that they normally worship guys for.
Mm,
I was never that. I was never a football player, never a basketball player. I was just a sort of short little guy in the room. Nothing to pay attention to. That's the reason why it looks like I had so much activity in my life because I was safe.
mm. And you create that environment for a woman to completely open up. It's just extraordinary. I don't think I've ever experienced, in fact, I haven't. I have not experienced what you provide with in any context of relating, because there's such a level of patience that you come with, a level of listening that you come with, a level of generosity, and a level of being able to question misunderstandings in a
Right.
way that brings so much clarity.
And it's still a lot for a lot of women to swallow. It takes a while for them to adjust to even seeing that as being a value. That most women fail to see it as a value.
Mm, mm,
So they're actually trying to change you the whole time. That's the reason why so much patience is needed. You
yeah,
got to be willing to go over and over the same thing a trillion times. And maybe at some point they start to go, yeah, maybe there's something in what he's saying. Let me pull the cover back just a little. I'm just gonna peek in. I'm not going all
mm,
the way in there. I'm gonna peek in. And then they start peeking in and they go, wow, you know what? This is beginning to make some real sense to me. And I
I get,
really want to thank you for having the patience and the presence of mind to stay with me until I started getting it.
yeah, I can really attest to the fact that it takes a long time because you've known me quite some time. and and sometimes it would be a really hard pill to swallow, what you would say and what you would ask and what you would have me reflect on would be stuff that I don't really want to look at. I don't really want to hear. I kept thinking, I wanted to go in another direction. I wanted to go back to an idea of a fantasy of how I wanted life to go. And this is the thing that you make people aware of as well. This tendency that we have as people to chase after things that aren't really for us, to
They
want
they they were
things.
never even created for you in the form that you're wanting them in.
Mm.
It never was set up that way. So now all of a sudden they put all these false ideas and false desires and wishes and dreams and hopes. They just fill you to the brim with that and they say, okay, now go have a beautiful life.
Mm.
And now what you think that means when they say that, now go and have all these fantasies, these dreams, these things that are in no way based in reality in any way whatsoever.
And yet we
Go,
can,
all that's gonna come to you. It's yours. It's your birthright to have all that.
and yet the
So
thing,
either
then we can spend decades pursuing.
chasing it and never get anything from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's such a cruel thing to do to a sweet, innocent young girl when she comes into this plane. It's like, why fill her head with all these fantasies? Why why don't you show her how to be with a man? Help her to understand what men are and what they're here for, what they provide in her life, what they can bring into her life, and how she can actually interact with them to bring the best out of them towards her.
Yeah. And oh, now this is really hitting it. Because as I've looked back at, the partners, the relationships I've had in my life, and then I've seen, oh my God, this is what this man brought to the table, and I didn't even notice. I didn't even see it,
You
and I
had something
couldn't
else in your
even
eyes.
receive it. Yeah.
You were looking every day. You get up looking
Mm,
for the fantasies. Where
mm,
are they going to come from? I know they're on their way to me because they told me that that's what my birthright was when I was a little girl. Keep
mm.
your eye open for the fantasies. They're
The
coming.
the consequence of that, of course, is realizing that I created a life that was so much harder than it ever needed to be because of this
Ever needed to
one
be.
simple
Men, men,
misunderstanding.
yeah, men want to please women.
Mm,
That's every little boy's dream to please his mother.
mm.
And now he has a representative of his mother outside of him that he can actually even have sex with. Don't you know he's tickle pink? But I don't know what the woman thinks. I don't have no idea what she thinks he's after.
Yeah.
So men that have a good heart and a big heart and want to support you, they get treated like shit. Why are you following me? You too little. You this. You're not 7 feet tall. No, everybody's not 7 feet tall. Most people are far from 7 feet tall. 6'4". You too short. She's a runt herself. She may be 5'2" and 300 pounds. And she's talking about how tall he is.
Mm.
What happened in your brain?
There's more to this, though. It's not just about how tall or short a man is. It's also about one of the biggest issues I've faced for myself is men who didn't have the money and couldn't provide, right? And that created so much inner conflict in me. Um, being in relationship where I would be berating that man or asking for something that he couldn't give. And, you know,
But never really necessarily being an active part of helping him build. See, you just want it all given to you.
mm,
He
well,
ought to already have it.
so what I would do in my life is I set out to be the one who created it, so I would chase after.
How was that?
That was in the end very exhausting.
Exactly, because it was intended to be. That wasn't your role. You took
But
on another
okay, so
role.
let's
You
talk
had
about,
to. You had to take it on. If a
yeah, and I
man,
was in that
if a
position. Your
man,
mother found,
right, she's
you know,
gonna
your
do
mother
that.
found herself in a position where she had to take the money from your dad and ration it back to him because otherwise she wouldn't
Exactly.
be able to feed you. And that was similar to me, you know, as I had
Yeah.
children that needed to be provided for. Nobody's providing. I've got to make all this big shit happen in the world, which was absolutely exhausting. But this is another point because in our world today, a lot of women are in that position. A huge amount of us are in positions where we have to
Totally.
provide for ourselves.
And,
And
and
there's
some of them are
nobody.
there because they were forced into the position, and some of them are there because they make terrible, terrible choices about everything. You know, it, I can't put up with this. Is that true? You'd rather suffer trying to provide everything than to learn how to deal with something? Why? Why can't you sit down with this man, pour your heart out, be honest, and see if there's some way for you all to build together?
Yeah, let's
What?
go to that. What does that look like? Because I think that's the thing. You know, I would separate myself. I would decide I had to do it all for myself because he was whatever I was making up
Right,
about him.
right.
So what does that look like to be able to build with a man? What does a woman need to give in order to create the possibility of being able to build with a man?
Her energy and her support.
Mhm.
The same energy that I'm seeing that most of the women lock down and have never really touched it since they locked it down. That energy is what the man is coming to you for. But if you have no understanding of that, then he's just bothering you. No, he's coming to you for what the mother put in you to give to him so that he could thrive and take care of you better.
A
So you
lot of
get caught.
women don't trust that though. They don't. So here's the big thing. They don't trust that because they're
They don't trust that what?
that
What's the
that
that you're
in
talking about?
that in giving that to a man, that man will provide for them, will love them, will cherish
Have you
them.
ever done it? Be honest.
I don't think I've ever properly been able to give that part of myself. And that's
So
why I raise
therefore,
it in the conversation.
the benefits of having given that has never come to you.
Mhm.
See, a man is like a big overgrown boy. He wants to be acknowledged. He wants to be respected. He wants to be patted on his head and something nice said to him whenever he does anything that he feels like is of value in the world.
And women can do that, right? You can do
They
that. But
they
then
can.
on another
They
level,
can, but they won't
well, even when some women do that, they can also in another moment,
tear you down.
yeah, there you go.
But I never understood what the tear down part was for. It in no way benefited them. It in no way encouraged him. It in no way changed things for the better. I never could understand that move. See,
Yeah.
the mother put love in the woman's heart. You know, forgive, 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 acknowledge, you know, to no end. You have an unlimited capacity for that.
Mm, yeah.
But everybody holds on to it like I can't give this away. E- Mainly because they will have forgotten how to be kind. See, women never want to acknowledge that they have actually played at being so bitchy and everything for so long. They no longer know and understand how to be kind. I've had women ask me, I would say, you know, if you were more truthful, your life would be so much better. What do you mean? I said, if you lied a lot less than you do on an everyday basis, your life would get better. What do you mean? What is a lie? I don't think I know what a lie is. And I came to realize that most women have no idea what a lie is. It's a survival mechanism. It's not a lie. Well, if it's something contrary to what you know to be the truth, I don't care how much you surviving because of it, it's still a lie. You
There's so
just don't
much
get
here. Sorry.
you just don't get to come and change what a lie means because it makes you uncomfortable.
This piece right here is reminding me when you told me to go and read Alison Armstrong's The Queen's Code. And she talks about that men lie, right? But men lie to protect a woman.
Exactly. A woman lies to protect nobody because it doesn't protect her either. There were just so many things that you coming up as a child, they never tell you how things work. You just see it and you
Yeah.
figure out, does it work? It looks like it works. I'm going to try it.
Yeah, that's like reading the menu and thinking you've eaten the meal.
Yeah. That's the reason why I'm scared when women start talking about cooking me dinner and stuff like that. It's like, well, I don't know what that means to you. I heard the words, but what do you mean by them? That could
Gosh,
mean I'm just gonna go in here and whip up something my mother used to whip up for me, and I sure hope you like it. No, I'm probably in no way gonna like it. I've never been high on eating poison and eating a whole bunch of shit that you can't digest. It's never been appealing to me.
because
So,
what you're talking here, sorry, what you're talking here is the energy with which the food is prepared in the
and
same way that.
the understanding with which it's prepared.
Mm. And so what you were saying a few minutes ago about, women who can cut you down in the next move, and what I've come to observe in that is that there's a tension point that I would react to, that
A
would then
tension point.
a tension within myself,
And what
and
does
then I'd
that
be in
tension?
reaction.
What is that tension? See, this is what part that goes unnoticed and unclarified. You reach the tension point. Why? What did you get all tense about out of nowhere?
So there would usually be a thought.
Okay, so you had a thought, and now
Yeah.
you in tension. Okay, where
And
does that go?
what that could lead to if I
Could
was if I unless I'm being very aware in myself is the is a response to my thought that's then projected outwards.
and it gets a kickback, a backlash,
It
and so you,
creates a separation, a huge
it creates a
separation.
backlash. You may get some kickback from the man at that point.
Yeah.
This is what the confusion is between men and women. Women overreact without thinking.
Mm. I had a really beautiful experience at the weekend. I have had problems using my mic with my laptop to get two-way audio over Zoom. And my son came, and without me even asking, he sat down for 3 hours to sort out my mic. And I just breathed because I could notice my head wanting to say, oh, you know, out for my laptop because I haven't backed it up, and all these concerns going on in my head about, oh, if he does this and it messes up that, and I just breathed and I just like let him do his thing, and then afterwards we had this
You let
gorgeous.
him do his man thing.
Yeah.
You there
And
trying to be a woman in the situation. He's there attempting to be a man. He comes to fix shit.
he
And
did
most
such a
women done
great
got to the
job.
point, but most women done got to the point, don't be fixing me. I don't want to be fixed. I don't need to be fixed. And actually you're about to burst down and burst into flames because you need fixing so bad.
So just to end the story, right? He did a beautiful job and we just celebrated afterwards. We had such a beautiful moment of connection and I said to him afterwards, "Thank you so much." And he was like, "You're welcome." And it was just so gorgeous and so delicious. And it's that and realizing how simple it is to create connection.
Very,
So simple.
very, very, very. Men are the simplest thing in the world. Sex, a sandwich, and silence. And I don't know why women have such a hard time figuring that out. Sex, a sandwich, and silence, some peace.
Mm,
That's it.
mm,
You have the average man eating out of your hand.
mm. It's taken me many, many years of my sons training me for me to get to this point of understanding it.
You had issues with sex. The moment you have issues with sex, it's going to be a hard road from then on. You don't need to take no other factor and distort it at all. Just distort sex in a woman, and she's going to have a rough life until she wakes up.
Mm,
That's just how it is. If she had that one straight, her mother could teach her how to make a sandwich. And then other than that, all you need to do is learn how to keep your mouth shut.
yeah. I mean, I guess what that hits when you say it is how painful it is that I mean, I know in my own experience, my mother hated sex. She had so much issues with the whole thing and the shaming that went on. And on top of it, we were in a religion that was absolutely condemning of sex. And, it was such a big mess.
So therefore, you grew up watching a woman hate being a woman. It was the worst curse in the world. This man wants sex from me. Oh my God.
Yeah. And the burden of that, right? The burden of pregnancy, the burden of all of it. And then where you're left is just in order to survive in life, you've got to go out and be the man to make it all happen because you can't trust.
Your mother probably never went out and became the man.
No, she
That's
didn't. But my reaction to watching her was that.
oh, I need to grow up to be a man now.
Not consciously. I wasn't consciously thinking that at all. But I look at it in terms of where it took me.
Could we honestly safely say that you didn't think about growing up to be conscious, period?
Mm.
That they take certain major things that are of major importance out of your consciousness and leave you to figure it out. It's
Although I think I did
cruel.
a kind of a good job on noticing that there were certain falsities happening and to remove myself.
Certain
But
what?
I think, in for me, just the fact that I knew there was something up with the religious conditioning. You know, so for me to leave home, to remove myself from being indoctrinated on the daily was a very big thing for me
Yeah,
to
I'm
handle.
sure. It gave you enough room to eventually get to a point where you had enough space to start using your intelligence to
Mm,
see that something is majorly wrong here.
mhm. We could talk for hours because
We sure
you know,
could.
I have like loads of audio of us over the years talking, and there's a manuscript even of some of the transcripts of conversations we've had over the years. But I just want to touch for a moment on how people can reach you, how people can learn from you.
They
Yeah,
can
all of
just
that.
go to uh shantamnityama.com. I think
Mhm.
that's what it is. I'm sketchy about all this technical stuff. Sometimes I don't even remember that I have a website, let alone what the name of it is. So it's a real stretch for me to like understand how to promote myself. I've
Mm.
never been promoted. People have always, so I heard you're having a workshop. When is it? I said, I have no idea. Let me see if I can find somebody that knows because I wouldn't even know. It
And yet they
wasn't,
happen. And yet
and
they're
yet,
happening.
and yet they happened. That's what I mean by how did I get here? I have no idea. It's a miracle of God that I got here with the little as I've understood about that side of life.
Mm,
I didn't
mhm,
grow up in a family where your father runs a business and he teaches you the business. None of that.
mm. Well, you don't need to worry about that because I will put your links to your website and your Instagram in the show notes so people can reach you. And I mean, I am going to ask you though, is there a training coming up for men or
Well,
women? What's
there's
happening?
a woman's workshop coming up, and they just have to go to the website because I may lie if I try to tell them when it's happening. I think it's in maybe April, maybe,
Is that
or
in person? Is it online?
it's online. The workshop is basically it's geared to being sort of like a think tank for women, where they look at why do I struggle to have a healthy relationship.
Mm,
We're just
mm,
gonna break that down
mm.
and go through it. And part of the whole thing is that it's only for a month and it's gonna be 4 group meetings. And I'm gonna also give one private session, one-on-one private session
Yeah.
for each woman in there where
Yeah.
we can really go through their individual stuff.
Yeah. Well, from experience, I highly recommend it. Just knowing you and being blessed to be in your presence on many occasions. So thank you so much for this conversation. And, you know,
We could talk for hours, like you said, because it's been beautiful, but we've touched on hardly nothing.
and yet there's so much gold in this conversation. I really hope people will receive it and that it, enables a much more beautiful life in the way that you have enabled so many of us to have a much more beautiful life. So, yeah.
And for any woman that's out there struggling, having no idea why she's into a relationship and then it's gone, and then she's in another one and it's gone, and she's puzzled as to why it keeps happening, come join me. Go to the website, find out when the workshop is, and come join me. Come hang out and get possibly some of your questions answered. And it's good to have your questions answered from a male perspective because that's what you're going to be attempting to deal with in a relationship.
For sure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You know you're always welcome.